as you've been learning the first city. We practice here a bit. When you go home, if it's not a technique you dig, don't do it. If you like what it brings you, do it. I wanted to become aware of everything. I did anima for 8 years. That was my city. It's the first one and it's the most important. To get you to the sensibility of knowing what you are. Beyond the human definition. If you want to accelerate the process, dissolve your human definitions. If you don't dissolve your human definitions, you're still going to get it. After a bit more time, that's all. So what prevents us from being aware beyond the human? It's the human. What is human? A human is a lot of things. A human is an intellect, it's a heart, living, experiencing emotions, it's a vital body, it's a physical body. Each of the 4 lower planes can play the role of the victim. The body can be really hurt, or it can be just hurt and play the victim. The heart can play the victim. You can be emotionally amplifying your pain to attract attention. Your mind can play the victim. Emotionally you're okay, but your mind is trying to find a strategy to manipulate your way into attention receiving. Or gain, obtaining. Or any way, you know? So you can do the mask and the roles, the different roles of the ego at many levels. There's only one way to understand it, is to pay attention. We're going to do an exercise. Pick a situation that you experienced lately where you were either the persecutor, the victim, or a savior. Pick it. I'll give you a few seconds to find. Now ask yourself intellectually, what emotion supported this role? You're not intellectually going to find out. What you have to do is feel. So breathe and go feel. So with your mind, you observe. With your heart, you go feel it. Was it an emotion in the family of being abandoned, of rejection, or guilt that supported your ego playing the role? And you sink into it. You go inhabit. You inhabit the emotion. You embody it. You incarnate it. You just sit there. And you stay aware. I was experiencing an emotion. As an ego, I behaved as this way. And you breathe. And naturally, you will start to gain understanding of what happened. Why were you doing it? Were you seeking something? Why did you have this emotion? Were you seeking to be loved? Were you seeking to be understood? Were you hoping that someone would save you? Were you wanting something? What did you want, really? That made that you did not receive what you wanted, so you started playing a role because you had the emotion about it. What did you want? It is normal to want. Don't say to yourself, oh, I wanted this, that was not right. No, don't say this. I wanted to be loved. I asked for the salt. He didn't give it to me. I was pissed off, become the persecutor because of guilt and rejection. I'm giving an example, okay? So you get back to yourself. So you look at the role that you're playing. What emotions hides under this? When you get to the emotion, What's the cause of the emotion? What did I want? What you wanted is attachment. So, the same way there are 3 roles of the ego and 3 emotions, there are 3 attachment types that covers 100 million-fold times the possibilities of what you can attach to. But there are 3 types of attachment: physical, emotional, and mental. Too easy. Physical, emotional, or mental attachments. Physical attachments is material things or addictions. Wanting to remain in relationship with alcohol or drugs. Wanting to want a relationship with someone physically because you like being touched. Sometimes it has nothing to do with emotional love. Sometimes just wanting someone is physical attachment. Sometimes wanting someone else is emotional attachment. You want to be loved. You want to love. You like the fighting. You like to be saved because you're a victim. You like to save because you're a savior. You like to entertain your roles by emotional attachment. It might be intellectual attachment. Intellectual attachment is about being right. What I know is more important than the truth. What I conceive of life, I will defend it with all my heart. I will become a persecutor of others. Jesus told this and that. If you don't believe me, you're gonna burn in hell. Mental attachment. When we prefer to be right than hold the truth. When you detach from intellectual supremacy, you prefer being wrong and know the truth than to be right about something. So you have to expand on what could be physical, emotional, and intellectual attachment, but basically it's attachment to something that you just don't want to detach, because when you have no more attachment, you have the feeling of falling in emptiness, which is not a nice feeling, which is a feeling that some of you got when you started just meditating on the first city, anima, just dropping, becoming aware of something greater than what you are. Who became dizzy a bit or free falling? Yeah. So this gives you a good idea on how to grasp your human experience, to master it instead of being enslaved to it. First thing, look at the drama. What role in the theater am I playing? Savior, victim, persecutor. It hides what emotion? Because of what attachment? It hides abandonment because of emotional attachment to the person who left. Focus on that and you'll eventually gain the wisdom. Attachment causes suffering. So you're going to stop attaching. If you try to train your mind in non-attachment, you will not succeed. In the same way that you can explain 100 times to a child, it has to stay balanced on a bike. Until it hurts, it won't. And when it hurts, it will stay in balance. That's how it works. So it's a fool trap. We were made to go through experiences that only our ego said was suffering. Soul is a continuous state of bliss. It's the only thing that exists anyway. Flavors of experiences, providing wisdom. Find a way to go across the shield of the ego, the masks, the layers of the 3 roles, so you can get in touch with the emotion. And the emotion is born from an expectation, an attachment. Okay? This is getting heavy. The 3 expectations lead to 3 egotistical behaviors. Obtain, accumulate, and attain. Obtain something. Once you have it, you want to accumulate more until you attain a certain level. And this attainment has the tendency to just elevate as you accumulate more. So you never end up reaching it. Most of the time, intellectually, we want to attain something. I want to finish my doctorate. I want to attain a certain level of salary. There's attainment of a goal. Emotionally, there's a lot of accumulation. More love, more love, more love. So you end up piling tons of toilet paper and CDs in case you lack some. Physically, most of the time, there's obtaining. You don't think of tomorrow. You just say, this is there, I want it. You take it. Leads to stealing and disrespect of other people's relation to object. Not possession of the object, it doesn't exist. But when you alter someone else's relationship with an object, especially if this one person is not enlightened and believes the object is his property, well then, you have to respect that and not disturb them, okay? But you can have physical attainment, emotional obtaining, and mental accumulation of knowledge. Everything concerns everything. So you have 3 attachments. Physical, emotional, and mental. That leads to 3, what's the name I gave? Needs. The 3 needs of the ego. I was looking for the word. So the 3 attachments, and then the 3 needs. The need to obtain, to accumulate, and to attain.
I'm not understanding your words. What is the first word you're saying? Are you saying obtain or attain?
Obtain. Acquiring. The second word is accumulate. And the third word is attain. Reach an objective. And thank you for asking because of my accent, my French accent, you don't get everything. Wow, that's a lot of stuff we learned. We play 3 roles, hiding 3 emotions, born from attachments that produce needs. So, to support this entire structure of the ego, we build expectations. Hoping to obtain, to accumulate, and to attain, we expect things to work our way. So there are 3 types of expectations. We are going to review all that. Okay? I'm just transmitting the knowledge so you can freak out a bit about it, and then we're going to review all that over 5 years. Okay? The 3 expectations. The first one is false hopes. You know, hopes. Oh, I hope he loves me. You're expecting. False hopes. The second expectation is over certainty. Oh, I'm certain it's going to work out. Oh, I'm certain this thing is mine. I'm taking it. Oh, I thought it was mine. Sorry about that. Oh, sorry, I thought this was my place. Over certainty. You're just certain. Taking for granted. The third one is egocentrism. It's not about even being certain. You just absolutely are in the state that you are the only important thing in the universe and everything else is meaningless. Okay? So, in overcertainty and in egocentrism, there is the pattern of taking for granted. Okay? But there's a difference between taking for granted because you were certain of, you just played a fantasy in your mind, being certain of, or egocentric. You were not certain, you simply did not care about anything else than you. Okay? These are the expectations. Ooh. Try to find an expectation you had in the last week, last month, last year, lately. An expectation. Find one this morning, okay? Sink into it. Go look at it. You were expecting something to work out, to answer which need? To obtain something, to attain, to accumulate? What was your expectation built on? Can you identify your expectation? Was it because you were egocentric? Did you simply hope it would happen? Was it a fantasy you made? Were you just certain? What type of expectation was it? And what need were you trying to answer? The need to obtain, attain, accumulate. Which one?
Obtain.
And feel it. What was it?
Obtain.
Obtain what?
A job.
A job. Because of a need. Okay? And you expected, there was hope. Was it? Yeah, it wasn't taken for granted because you knew it wasn't, but you fantasized relying on it because of an attachment on physical needs. It's normal to be attached to physical needs. I understand you. But do you want to be enslaved to this emotion? What was the emotion? Abandonment? Or rejection?
Rejection.
Breathe. Go in there. Rejection. Feel it. Feel it now so you don't have to be rejected in your next 10 application. Until you go feel now the emotion and understand the ego game of being the victim of being rejected, until you just get the lesson of that, your soul is going to create opportunities for you to go into it until you gain the wisdom of it. So if you go through an experience like that, you have to sink in. And you don't have to follow the chart of all the words I said. Just pick random words. Oh, I feel rejected. I was so hoping to get it. Now I feel victimized. This attachment causes suffering. Contemplate. Sink into your experience. She had the humility to share her experience, so now she can be into it. Keep yours for yourself, because now I want you to know how to apply it. I don't want to teach you how to become my patient as your therapist. I want to teach you how to become your therapist to a patient that does not exist. I love these word games. So you see, this experience is deep. Now you understand there is suffering in this experience. We're not done mentioning sets of 3 words, okay? There are 3 tools. Call this the 3 tools of the ego. The 3 tools that the ego does to maintain the mask, to sustain the expectations, trying to answer the needs based on attachments. Okay? 3 tools are power, control, manipulation. We get somewhere, we start with power. I'm gonna get this, I'm so and now they don't want to give it to you. So now you try to control. I want it. Okay, control doesn't work. I'm gonna try to manipulate my way through it. Women were trained quickly that power against a man doesn't really work, and control also causes suffering. They quickly go to manipulation. Men imagined that their first attempt at power worked, so they become power trippers more. But this, let's not generalize, okay? But mostly men are into power trip, mostly women into manipulation, simply because of genetics. We're stronger, we hit you when we're animals. You don't like that, so you just torture us from inside. I love that, okay? Not the torture, the speaking about it. I mean, we have to play with this, okay? This is like mentioning the most atrocious thing that humans do. We have to laugh about it. Whew. So maybe she did not do power, control, or manipulation trying to get her job. She simply applied. Okay? But maybe she did. Find an experience where you were either in control, power, or manipulation. Find a recent experience where you were in one of the three power trips, control trips, or manipulation trips of the ego. Look at yourself. What did you want to obtain? What was your expectation? Did you see this? The different tools that you use to try to get your ends? Let's add another one. What role were you into? Persecutor, savior, or victim? For which reason you manipulated, hoping to get something, expecting, because of an attachment. This is the web of the ego. It's large like that. It's extremely vast because each one of the 21 masks of the ego can be combined to each of the other ones. So exponentially, possibilities are endless. America is a land of opportunity. That's a joke. I'm Canadian, so we just laugh at this. Americans just speaking about this, and the poor people on the street and the rich people. Are you offended that Canadians laugh at Americans? You should see Americans laugh at Canadians. I like American jokes toward Canadian. Seriously, I love it because it's so true. And Canadians pretend that they are offended, playing the victim, because they are attached to their values, mental attachment. So they play the victim. They feel abandoned or rejected. Ego. A country has an ego. A city has an ego. A state has an ego. A church, community has an ego. You know that. A family has an ego. An individual has an ego. And each part of your individual, intellect, emotional, vital, and physical, has an ego. And wisdom has an ego. Your soul has an ego at a very extremely refined level. And your consciousness is seed of the ego, but relatively deprived of it. Because consciousness is consciousness. But there is spiritual ego. In a complete state of compassion. It's just the personal point of view instead of the universal view. It's not evil. Alright? Your ego is your best friend. You created it in order to find love. Can you believe it? So take all the books you read about the ego being the source of evil and the source of your suffering and not understanding that Lucifer is a preferred angel of God. Throw that in the trash. Ego is your puppy dog. It follows you everywhere. And it loves you. And you love it. And sometimes it pees on the carpet and you have to wash it. Okay? So you become playful with your ego. I'm guiding you now to examples so you can learn to apply how can I become conscious of the ego that is trying to find out love so you can awaken. I want you to stop dreaming because I love you. I made a contract when I enlightened 2004, 100 years ago. I had my ticket way out. I was going up. That's it. And I looked back and I saw a bunch of guys. And I said, I'm going to come back until each one of them is enlightened also. And this is my 30th lifetime enlightened. Because I've seen your suffering. You know why I've seen your suffering? I saw mine. And each time I incarnate, I have to go to the teenage again. I have to go to this entire emotionally challenging system. So I can put the wisdom I gain at the level of self and bring it back to the new human, because the last human died. This is my job. What is most wonderful about what I just said is that you don't have to trust me, nor take my word for it. It's not important. It has no value for you. All you need to know is that there are stuff that goes on that is beyond the human limited senses. If you want to be able to perceive everything I say to you, so you don't have to trust my word, but get the experience of it, you have to enlarge your mindset, your range of perception. The first thing to do is to be able to identify what is just right in your face, because right now it's obstructing you. Yesterday, I took a few logs that was around your house. They were in the way of your door, so you can get out. They were in the way of your window, so you couldn't perceive outside of yourself. So I took these logs so it could be more free to observe and to go in and out. So we went in and out, remember? And you started perceiving. And I took these logs, which are some of your suffering, and I put it in the fire. And it burned. Right? I have my limits. If I put too much wood on my fire, it's going to extinguish. It's going to be too much. I just put as much as I can to get a big holy fire, but not to extinguish myself, not to bury myself in like a week, 2 weeks of suffering, just a few moments. So yesterday, in about, let's say 2 hours, I was done with the suffering I took from you. A lot of mental suffering you had. Let's analyze that. You want to be free in your mind. Traditionalists around you piss you off, or challenge you. Because of the state of pride, they are attached to their mental mindset. And they do power trips, confronting you with your right to think freely. So now you can understand the ego game. Why do traditionalists confront you? Even if they don't speak, they just look at you. You know, and you live around this feeling sometimes of some people not agreeing with your right to be free. When you first started to be more new age or more open to spirituality, the people around you wondered if you were becoming cultists or satanists or whatever, you know. Some of you got this experience, some of you didn't. You experienced something in there. You were offended. Because you were not conscious of the system, you were victimized. It just happened. Felt guilt. Even though you were doing the right thing. You know, guilt does not require you to do something wrong. For guilt to be felt, you only require to believe that you did something wrong. So even if you do something right, and someone tells, this is bad, guilt. If you do something that is wrong, but no one knows about it, not even yourself, no one is aware that it is not a good thing, you won't feel guilt. Now you can start dissolving the concept that something could be possibly wrong. There's only experience. Nothing bad or evil ever existed in the universe. There are only experiences. What is wonderful is that nothing good ever existed either. They were just experiences. People don't like that. This is why I cannot say this wisdom to everyone. I say, you never did anything good. They say, okay, everything I did is wrong. No! You never did anything wrong, so I'm great. No, you're not devoid of flaws. You still have to evolve. The concept of good and evil is a reference that is born from separation. The building of the walls of the ego, making you lose contact with the unified self. So there is separation, there becomes polarity, there becomes man and woman, yin and yang, day and night, death and life, good and evil. These energies exist as flows of polarity. In the yin-yang system, we don't say that yang is evil. But in good and evil, we say evil is evil. No, it's experience. of polarities. Okay, you have to enlarge your mindset of that. Be compassionate. So instead of thinking in terms of what is good and what is evil, think in terms of what promotes suffering and what promotes happiness. Okay? This is how consciousness sees it. Oh, this causes suffering. Oh, this causes happiness. It's not good and evil. Okay? I smoke some pot, this is evil. No, you got an experience that eventually creates suffering. And while you were smoking pot, you had to justify yourself telling that it's alright, it'll be okay. Okay, no problem. We do tons of stuff. I took this smoking pot example, but we do tons of stuff that promotes suffering that we are consciously aware that it's not true. And we are certain of our shot, attached to our mental interpretation of what is good and evil and what is good or wrong. We're convinced to hold the truth, and giving money to the poor is a good thing. You don't know that. Not giving money is a good thing because it responsibilizes them. You don't know that. Is it good to give money to the poor? I don't know. How does it feel like? Happiness or suffering? If it provokes happiness, it's good. Not his happiness, your happiness. You give $10 to the poor guy. He goes smoke some drugs and you're all angry at him. I want you to have food. It's none of your business. If you give money, you give it to feel good about it. It has nothing to do with what you'll do with it. If it provokes more suffering for him to become aware of his situation, and he wants drugs. Instead of being begging in the street, some people go to the pharmacy and pretend it's okay because it's allowed by the healthcare system. And you do the same. What is good? What is evil? What promotes suffering? What promotes happiness? And it never concerns the other. It concerns you. Right? So don't be in such a hurry to judge other people because they behave differently. Just being what you are as spiritualists, you know what it is to be different. You're not normal. Don't be. Because it's normal to suffer, it's normal to stay in a drama, it's normal not to be enlightened. Why the heck would you want to stay normal? Become a weirdo already? Sit in someone else's body, invoke the fire of Christ. Woohoo! All right. One last sprint. Three denials. It's going to make a good book. Three denials. 3 ways to deny everything that we've been speaking about. Fear. Shame. Pride. When you don't want to agree with someone, is it fear? You're afraid to lose. Shame, you're ashamed if you are not right. You think that if you're not right about an argument, it devaluates yourself. It's shame. Or pride, you simply have to be perfected already. It can be. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time, the physical body fears to die or to be hurt. The emotional body is ashamed, and the mental body is in pride. Most of the time. But there's proudness in the body and the heart. There's shame in the body and the mind. And there's fear in the mind and the heart, because we know that. Sometimes we just fear what is unknown. This is intellectual. So, if you can't feel an emotion, and you cannot recognize what part of the ego is running. You're looking at experience, you know you're suffering, but you can't get it. Is it power, control, manipulation? Is it an attachment? Is it expectation of hope, certainty, or egocentric? I can't see it. I don't. And is it abandonment or rejection? I can't distinguish. Okay. Why are you not able to address it? Is it because you're afraid to feel? Because you're ashamed of what you are? Or because you're too proud to admit that you feel that? These are the three ways to deny. The denials are ways that the ego has to prevent himself from becoming aware of himself. Pick a denial. Last time you were proud, ashamed, or in fear. Pick one. And sink into the denial. Sink into the fear. Sink into the shame. Sink into the pride. Look at it. What emotion does it hide? Stay in the denial. Stay in the consciousness of fear. Stay afraid. The goal is not to stop being afraid. It's to become conscious of the fear. It'll disappear when you're tired of it. Don't push it away. Shame or pride the same. Don't try to dissolve it through human means. Just wait for it to dissolve in consciousness. This denial that you have, was it hiding an emotion of abandonment, rejection, or guilt? Feel it. Be conscious both of your denial and your emotion. Be there, both things at the same time. And just appreciate it. That's the emotion. That's the shame. That's the pride. That's the fear. That's the emotion I've been getting. I grasp that. I didn't feel the rejection of the application because I am ashamed. I wasn't good enough. Do you notice that after just a little contemplation of this, it starts to lose its power over you? Do you know that? Simply contemplating these small little events of the ego and the human emotions and the mental processes and how it feels. You will start to get the grasp of it. So now you have a lot of notes because I was introducing it as you could take it. And I'm astonished that everything could come in. But basically, you have the three base attachments that leads to needs of the ego for which he builds expectations, and you will use tools to play a role to sustain the drama that covers the emotion that you deny seeing. You got that. You just got it all, okay? And I'm going to retell you everything in order so you can retake this in one single page. And when you rewatch a video and when you apply it yourself, you can just look at the roadmap of the ego. 21 Masters of the Ego. This is the roadmap. How do you do integration? So this is the big word. Integration. Bring everything back in. And be conscious of it. We call this integration. We integrate consciousness because we spent our whole life pushing consciousness outwards. It's his fault. He's the one who is afraid. He's the guilty one. He's expectation. She is doing that. He is doing this. Everything is always outside. Now you have to bring this inside. Reintegrate all. But it never was in, so it's not reintegrate, it's integrate. Right? The key and the science of integration. If your emotions and your ego starts to be too subtle for you to recognize, when you are in a state of happiness, you meditate with the first city. To become more sensible, to be able to grasp even more subtler patterns of the ego. If you are sad, depressed, not feeling good, don't meditate, please. Do not meditate when you're not in harmony, or at least stable. If you're not in a state of complete bliss, but you're okay. You could do a meditation on a CD. You could go take a beer. Whatever. Then you're okay. If you're in a state of bliss, cities just pop like this. Okay? Now we definitely need a break.